Let me see what's going on here. Why can't I zoom out? Can I make a landscape like full? How about this framing?
Three, two, one, hit the go button. Greetings and salutations. My name is Sasha Moreau with FairVU, and this is an interview with Robert Bousquet, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, and a good buddy of mine from ago. Robert, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, the audio worked. That's fantastic. That's all good. We're going to pretend that we didn't just do this 3 times in a row. We're gonna chat about music and what's going on. Robert and I have known each other for a very long time, probably back since high school, or you might have been in middle school when I was a freshman, and we met something like
crossed
that.
paths with the whole band thing, but I think we kind of met each other in jazz band.
That's what it was.
In high school.
Yeah. You came up playing the set. So Robert is a very unique guest to have on an interview here because he does not play in a rock or a metal band. He doesn't play in a funk collective. He's not a music producer. What do you do these days musically before we get deep into this?
I mean, my main passion right now is singing opera as a tenor. And it's something I found pretty late in life, but something I really enjoy now. And I do play drum sets still every once in a while. Show my son how it's done.
Right on. And isn't that amazing when you sit down and you do something and your kids are actually like, whoa, you actually know what you're up to. Like, you can really play. It feels good.
Yeah. Because of the whole detour into opera, he didn't see me play when he was young. So the first time I pulled the drum set out was like, 10 years after I had last played, and first time he's ever heard that. So he was pretty shocked.
It's mind blowing. That's all of a sudden the dad lore has deepened, which is super cool. So let's chat a little bit about your musical background. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share with everyone, what is your origin story as a musician? Take me through the circumstances that produced the musician that you are today.
Sure. I started music pretty late, 7th or 8th grade. I got into it and really enjoyed it. It was like my favorite subject. I pretty much through high school learned every subject through music. So if it was history or math or science, like everything was sort of like through the lens of music. And so that led into deep dives into like frequencies and acoustics and orchestration and a number of different topics that just sort of like was like all I could think about. And then that led to like, studying music later. I got into USC and studied music there. And then in order to pay for school, I had to use some other skills. So then I started doing software development to work at the university and pay for school. So I worked there.
Because music wasn't paying the bills for you, huh?
It wasn't paying the bills as an undergraduate, no. But it did, it was something that I really enjoyed doing and I wanted to keep doing. And even though kind of my career went a different way with the software stuff, through like startups and consulting and other things, like I've been able to do music my whole life in other ways.
So how did you get into opera? Was it like you woke up one morning and you were like, ah, and then like you yawned and this note came out? You were just like, oh, wait a sec. Or like, how do you wake up one morning and decide like I'm going to be an opera singer? Which is cool. Mad respect to you, because that's totally a Robert Bousquet move.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. So in college I studied music education, and so in order to do that, you end up going to take all these classes for the different instruments. You take, you end up learning like how to play the saxophone and how to play the flute and how to play brass instruments, and one of them is chorus. So I joined the chorus as part of my training to be a music teacher. And the director was kind of going down the line, asking people to like, did you study, sort of thing. And I sang my part. And he's like, afterwards, he came up to me and he said, what are you studying right now? And I said, music education, and I play percussion. And he's like, you should be a voice major. You need to switch majors like right now. And you need to be singing every day. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I didn't, to me, I had no context. Like I didn't know that I could sing. My voice sounded very harsh. My voice had like a metallic sound to it, like a witch's cackle almost, like,
Mm-hmm.
some sort of like, like a buzz to it that was
Good
unpleasant
descriptor.
to me. Yeah. And, later I learned that's called squealo, and people work their whole lives trying to create that sound because that's the sound that cuts through the orchestra. That's the sound that rings in the house, and that's the thing that gives people those goosebumps when it hits their body. And so it's called squealo, and something that's just built into my voice. And some people might call it buzz, or they'll call it a number of different things. But so I've learned to deal with it. Like I've learned that that's not what I hear. What I hear is this like zzz, and what they hear is this sort of like ringing that cuts through a whole hall.
Dude, can confirm I have never once heard you zzz. I've heard you like blow my face off with this amazing resonant like voice that is just like
Yeah,
doing the thing. So if you're
yeah.
hearing zzz, like thank you for continuing on through that because that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean,
Squealo.
I've learned to realize that that's only one aspect of the sound. I'm hearing it through the bones in my head, that part of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I have to listen to the sound when it returns from the room, or sometimes I'll have to like route it to my ear in a rehearsal so I can kind of check what is the public hearing, and I can make adjustments. But I've learned to kind of calibrate because none of us hear what we actually sound like. We hear
Exactly.
through like a distortion,
The
which is
the two
internal.
things.
Yeah, we hear through multiple sources. And so, it's you have to kind of work with a coach. You have to work with somebody who can give you the external feedback to say that's the right placement, or that's the right ring, or whatever. You can't tell that when you're learning because you just don't have any reference points to know. And
Mm-hmm.
so that feedback becomes critical to kind of shaping the voice and developing over time, and it continues to develop. I mean, I'm a different singer today than I was 2 years ago or a year ago. It just continues to evolve, and I continue to make adjustments, and yeah. So
Dude,
it's kind of a cool journey to be on now.
can I just say, like, the last 60 seconds, you have turned this interview into a masterclass on how to develop your voice. Like that, I am mind blown. For anyone who is watching this, I just got to say, you are just incredible. And from
Thanks,
back,
man.
from my perspective, here's an external perspective on me watching you become a musician as we were playing together in high school and such. I'm fascinated that you said that you essentially learned all of the other subjects through music,
Yeah.
because that is an amazing perspective on how to do that. I remember being in Mr. Green's band class with you, the fourth period, the last period of the day, and I remember you like tapping me on the shoulder once, and me turning around and you being like, "Hey, check this out," and you held up like a graphing calculator, and it had like a graph on it. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's cool." He's like, no, you don't get it. This is what A440 looks like. 440 hertz. This is the note that the orchestra tunes to. I just graphed it. Check it out. This is what. And I was just like, dude, who the hell even are you? I'm deep in punk rock world, or like, in band, we're playing Holst or whatever it is, and you're over here
Yeah.
accessing this part of your brain that the rest is just dormant for us. So
Yeah.
thank you
To
for
me, I mean,
sharing.
y- I'm in class, we're learning about exponentials or logarithmic functions or whatever, and I just think about the piano, like it doubles, the frequency doubles every octave. So it's an exponential, kind of graph of the frequency. And then when you start adding on top of that the partials, like the different relationships between like the fifth and the octave and all the parts that we hear in these sounds, like it's so much math. To me, it was like that was how I learned how to do that. That was what made mathematics fun for me, was to think
Yeah.
about it in the context of music. Like I could care less about history unless it was about like what was happening in society that created the Baroque, or that created classical music, or that created these weird things that have come after that. Like what has influenced and evolved music was the only reason that I could think of to care about history at the time. you know, and
That's
that's being young
incredible.
and naive and everything, but that was how I hooked into a lot of different subjects.
Hey man, and you made it through, which is obviously you graduated because of it, and way to apply yourself and find a way. And because really that's what's up. If you're young and you're struggling in school, this is the way to do that. Find a way to relate to the material, and
Yeah.
make everything about your passion, and then
Like
access it
something
through
interesting.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Hook it
Um,
to something interesting. I mean, otherwise it's like, it can be dull, if it's not
we
useful to you.
You are one of the, you and I used to do something. Okay, whenever I do an interview and I'm chatting about my musical background and such, I always tell people, like, I kind of feel like I got the best of both worlds because I was doing punk rock in the afternoons and like ear
Mhm.
training and listening to records and then being in a band and doing all that. But I was also getting the classical stuff in school and learning about theory and everything. And you
Mhm.
and I used to go and buy the score to like a symphony, and we'd go down to Reno and we would be there and listen to the symphony, and we would just be reading along as things were
Yeah.
going. I've got amazing, fun, cool memories about doing that, and like that period of time, there was so much music happening
Yeah.
for me, and it was pretty amazing to watch you do your thing. So from my perspective, you get through high school, you're doing your stuff, and you did great. I remember you learned a System of a Down song at the very last moment for our senior talent show because the kid who was going to sing it chickened out at the last second. Caleb, who was playing the drums, he said, "I'll just sing it." So he went to lead, and you were like, "Well, I guess I'll learn the song." You had what, like 2 hours or something like that, and like
Yeah.
nailed it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I was pretty ambitious back then. And what's weird is back then I was not nervous about playing percussion ever. And that's a big difference between singing. When I started singing, I had stage fright and I could not get in front of people and sing. And it took a long time of, really working on that to the point where I could actually feel comfortable or even excited
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
performing in front of people. And you've been part of that because when in the early days I'd come to you for like acting coaching and support and just encouragement
Hmm.
and everything. And then you definitely helped me kind of break through some of those barriers and realize that I have the ability to be another person on stage and kind of embody the character.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of musicians have this concept of stage fright, and it is so much more prevalent with singers. And the reason is because when you were doing percussion, or if you play guitar, you play bass or something, you have something that is in between you and the audience. Whereas if it's
Yeah,
singing, it's just you. It's just
yeah,
coming from you, and there's nowhere to hide. This happens with actors all the time. It is now people judging you doing you, which is
yeah,
pretty crazy. So,
yeah. I mean, if
yeah,
you're a
just
percussionist and they don't like the sound, you just switch mallets. Okay, I'll pick a harder mallet.
exactly.
Okay, I'll pick a softer mallet. You have a lot of control over the sound. And when you're singing, there's this like vulnerability, I think,
Yeah.
from the fact that you cannot change your voice box, you cannot change your technique like that. It's just how it is right now in this moment, and there's not a lot of that you can do to to change it, and that's a good thing because that's what they're here to hear.
Mhm.
But you have to kind of live with the fact that it's a high risk activity. you
It
know.
is high risk here and here.
Yes, yeah,
For sure. Okay, I'm
yeah.
gonna before we kind of move on to the sort of the next little bit here. I'm going to say one word, and I want you to provide the context for where this word comes from. You ready for this?
Okay, all right.
Grover.
Yeah, my favorite tambourine. Not just my favorite, like a lifelong friend. Um,
Explain a little more for people who don't know what a Grover tambourine is, please.
so, you know, as a percussionist, I lusted after percussion equipment that I could not afford, and eventually I had enough money to that I worked multiple jobs and stuff in high school and saving money and stuff, and I was able to order this beryllium copper Grover tambourine, and it has like calfskin head, and it's just like hand hammered jingles and everything, and it was like to me it was like and I was sort of like really infatuated with tambourine technique. I'd like read orchestration books and learn about like the different of evolution of the tambourine and how it's used in different like Shostakovich symphonies and other things. So I really like was into tambourine playing and techniques and stuff. And so when I finally got the tambourine, I was like overly excited about it. and I'm sure that's where that's the part you remember about how
Dude,
enthusiastic I was about it.
I remember you bringing it in and showing it off and then playing it and being super serious about it, specifically that motion where you do
The
the
thumb
thumb
roll,
and then
yeah.
the thumb roll like this. And I remember one day I was doing something and just doing this, and like I hear a crash, like, and I hear you yell and interrupt the whole class, "Don't touch my Grover!" And then I see you like run across because some freshman had decided he was going to play the tambourine and he had misplaced his, so he just reached out and grabbed yours, and you like lost it on him, and with good reason, with good reason. So I just
Yeah,
the level of detail that you work at is amazing to me, and we're going to get into that more when it comes to your software business in a
yeah,
different episode, which is great. So
yeah.
thank you for the background on that. So you are
All
currently
right.
singing opera as a tenor,
Yep.
and what are you working on presently? What's
Well,
the current project for that?
right now I'm in the midst. I'm getting ready to start rehearsals for Iolanta, which is a Tchaikovsky opera. It actually debuted the same day as the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky.
Oh,
So he released those two in the same night, and like the first half was Nutcracker, and
damn!
the second half was or vice versa. In the same performance. So it's a one
So it's
act
a short
opera.
opera.
It's
Okay.
it's one act. It's an hour and 20 minutes, which is pretty short for opera standards.
Yeah.
Apparently our attention spans are getting a lot shorter over time. Um, but back then opera was like a football game or an entertainment that people spent their whole evening doing. Right? It was something that was just what you did for the whole evening. And
Gotcha.
so this was a half-sized opera, pretty much, and it's in Russian. So that's been the biggest challenge for me is learning how to pronounce and sort of interpret the Russian language, and
Hmm.
had to work with a number of different coaches and people to kind of guide me on that path. And yeah, there's someone here who's been
That was me.
influential
I
in,
helped
in
out.
in
I
fixing
helped
some
out
of
once.
those things. So all the things that you fixed about my score definitely have been corroborated by multiple other coaches. So that was great
That's good.
to
So
get
that
that
means that I'm not
feedback.
just making stuff
Yeah,
up, which is cool.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sweet, dude. Well, so let me ask you. Well, first off, when does that perform? Where can people check this out? What's the
Yeah,
haps on
so
that
this will be
performance?
with the Tahoe Symphony in the Reno Tahoe area,
Hmm.
May 15th through the 18th. And yeah, check it out. You can go to TahoeSymphony.com.
Awesome. That's great. So chat with me a little bit. So we've got your musical background and how you became the musician you are today. Share with me, if you'd be so kind, a significant musical moment. This doesn't have to be the best or the greatest, but something that, like, when this thing happened, it just solidified that music is a positive force in your life, something that comes to mind when you think about your career thus
Hmm.
far.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a few, and every
Lay them
time
on me.
that I have those, they share kind of a common theme, and it really comes down to sort of this euphoria that comes from the culmination of so many things into one moment, and the fact that that moment will never happen again. Um, and how music is about moments that never happen again. And so like you're always it's sort of like a junkie, like you're always looking for the next moment that is on the same level as the ones that you've experienced in the past. And so you're always looking for these experiences that are going to be coming ahead of you in your musical life that you haven't yet reached or you haven't yet experienced that are waiting for you to like arrive at that point. And so to me that's where those are the types of things that really kind of keep me connected and re-engage me every time I start to get, because like everything that's difficult, like you get discouraged, you get run down, you can't keep the focus on it anymore, or you like your work
Hmm.
or your family or other things like pull you away from it. But it's something you can always go back to, and you can pick it up a lot later and continue, and it always has something to give. So yeah, that's something that I really like about it.
So, okay, I'm gonna ask you to give me one of those moments that you can think of here momentarily, but I'm gonna give you a sec to think by pointing out that you have just single-handedly explained the why people love going to concerts and that live music thing, and the
Yeah.
fact that you're trying to get that again and again and again. So if your family, if you're watching this and your family is just like, oh, you're addicted to concerts, yeah, indeed you are, like a junkie, and you're trying to get that next hit of dopamine with all of
Yeah.
us together experiencing that moment. Yeah,
Exactly.
is there
And that's
anyone
the other thing.
that
It's shared with the people who are with you, you know, and that's cool. Um, so I mean, there's a couple of those. I mean, I remember like reaching out and touching Tito Puente's feet at a concert, you know, when he was playing timbales, and like the timbales like were basically like sending their sound like right onto my face. That was like awesome. He's just up there like happiest person in the world, and that sound was just like washing over me, and just like the energy and the like the horns and everything. It was a great concert, and I love Tito Puente, and he died like a couple weeks later on that same tour. But I got a chance to see him, and that was like a great moment. Others were
do
like I
you?
was in the Rose Bowl, and I'm standing in
Yeah.
on the at the 50-yard line holding a bass drum that was in the marching band, and we're playing the national anthem, and John Williams is conducting an arrangement that he made of the national anthem, and like jets are
Whoa.
flying over, and the whole stadium turns into like like a like a like a U.S. flag like card stunt. The whole stadium turns into red, white, and blue card stunt, and it's just and then fireworks are going off and like the jets, and it was just like, okay, that's another awesome moment that like came, brought to you by music or whatever. um just all sorts of like things like that. Some of them are like not as spectacular, some of them are just like listening to Tchaikovsky opera or Tchaikovsky like symphonies, and then
Yeah.
like going back to them after like 5 or 6 years and realizing you still remember all of it,
Yep.
and how that like never left you, those kinds of things, those little moments that like that really just re-engage you.
I can close my eyes and relive the entirety of the first suite in E flat by Holst.
Yeah,
At any
absolutely.
given point, it's all right
Yeah.
there. I will say that you just triggered a fond memory for me of one morning where jazz was canceled. Like we all showed up, and then we found out jazz was canceled, and the seniors. When I was a senior, the jocks used to blast like rap music in senior hall and whatnot. And you and I got the great idea with our buddy the Bastard, and we went out there with a boombox and blasted Tchaikovsky, like cranked it, turned it up, and we're just doing the thing. And they were like, "Turn off that stuff. We want to play real music." And we were just like, "I can't hear you. It's too awesome." And you turned it up even more. It was just great. So, yeah, man,
Yeah, you mean it's a
really
real
cool.
banger.
Obs- Tchaikovsky, a real banger. Robert Bousquet, a review. That's great, dude. Is there a particular piece of music that you have prepared as a musician, or something that maybe you recorded or that you performed that sticks out to you that you really are very proud of, that you are really grooving on in terms of something that you really worked with and that is deeply meaningful to you?
um yeah, I mean
And no
there's
pressure, but
definitely pieces that. What's that?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say no pressure, but I have one for you. But you go first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's challenging. I think those pieces that you love are like the one, whatever one you're working on right now. Like,
That's a good
and
mindset.
so yeah, I mean, I think there's been many over the years, and I think the one I never performed them or anything, but I really appreciate and can always go back to those Tchaikovsky symphonies 4, 5, and 6. Those to
Hmm.
me, that set, I really enjoy those every single time I go back to them. Every time I put them on, I kind of go back to like a centered place, and I can focus on things. I can kind of see the future through those things again. Like it sort of clears the head. To me, those are like really therapeutic to me. I love those, and it's circumstantial. I'm sure other people it doesn't have the same effect, but to me, those for whatever reason have come back many many times, and every time I find them again, it's like finding an old friend. And so whether or not I've performed them or not really isn't like necessary, because
Of
you
course.
can still experience them whether you're performing it or you're listening. Like you're still participating in that, in that experience. So that's the cool thing about what you guys are doing with the live streaming and everything, is like it takes both. Like you can't just perform for no one, because you have to have someone receive the experience in order to like make a
To
connection.
complete the
So
cycle. Yeah.
yeah. So
That's cool, dude. Thank you very much. I was going to say the one that I have seen you do, that I did see you perform, a couple of years ago. You released a video for Christmas singing with your daughter,
oh yeah,
and you were doing "Oh Holy Night," where you sang the original French, and then she, I believe, sang in English, and
saying the English.
that is my favorite traditional Christmas carol. That minor drop in the chorus just gives me chills every time, and hearing it, and that actually inspired me to do my version in French and English 2 years later, and because that
Okay.
got stuck in my head, and it just
It
was fantastic.
Yeah, many people love that piece, and the context around that was COVID. Obviously, we were all stuck at home, so that
Hmm.
was the Christmas, it was 2020 Christmas that I recorded that, and for me, it was sort of, you know, it was videography, it was art direction, it was singing, it was recording that stuff in my house. I mean, we had a pianist come over and record the track, and then we went around town and collected, like, the B-roll of all the Christmas and the whole sort of thing. And so it was that, you're right, that was a thing that I'm pretty proud of creating. Of
That was
course,
beautifully done.
vocally I continue to evolve, but like that was like a snapshot of how it was then, and a really cool project for me to work on with my daughter as well. I mean,
Maybe, maybe with your permission, maybe we will link to that video,
sure.
so that people can check it out and see exactly what we're talking about, because it's pretty
Yeah.
rocking.
All right. Thanks.
So let me, yeah, do of course, absolutely. So let me ask you, what do you love about being a musician? I mean, you've already answered this question with stuff, but
With
specifically,
layers.
what? Yeah, yeah. Talk to me a
Well,
little bit.
yeah. I mean, the nice part about being a musician is you'll never be done. Like it's like
Yeah,
you have to enjoy the journey, because like you can always be a better musician. It's something that you can work on until you die. And so like you're never bored, or unless you don't want to be a musician anymore. But like it's something that if you continue to do, you can continue to kind of you can continue to find gains, and you can continue to invest in, and it continues to kind of pay you back in new ways. So for me, it's a place where I can always like dig into. I can always like find something new. I can always, work on something that I need to work on or whatever. And so it's
nice.
like an endless playground of things to kind of keep me busy,
Well,
keep me inspired.
it's like you said, sometimes life comes in, or your family takes you away, or your job or something, but music is going to be there for you when you get back.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's cool. So give me the flip side of that. What do you dislike about being a musician? What do you find challenging?
Yeah, it's like it's it's something that takes a lot of effort. And
Hmm.
so it's both a reward, but it's also it can be something that that can be a big struggle. It's like it's like a challenge, and if you succeed, you kind of move through the challenge to another place. But there's a number of
Right.
times when I've done music and fallen short. So that definitely is the risk, right? Emotionally
Uh, yeah,
and
emotionally, it
energetically. Yeah,
absolutely is. And
yeah,
especially because we are, as musicians, we are always our harshest critics.
yeah.
And so not having a success on that is definitely a setback, and it requires tenacity and integrity to move your way back through it. So,
Right.
no, good observation, dude. That's great. What would make your life easier as a musician? What would make your life more efficient, aside from $1 million in a private jet to tour whenever you wanted, and so on and so forth? So something that is practical. That we're not giving out $1 million. This is not Oprah here.
I mean, I think um, I actually got I got an email the other day from Fourscore, the app that you put your music in and flip the pages and everything. It's been 15 years since that thing came out, and I started using it 4 days after it was released. Um, and it's one of those things where the amount of available music that you can learn, that you can have with you at any moment with that thing, because you can score. I mean, I've got boxes of music scores, laying around in various places because I've cut the binding off and I've scanned them and I put them in that thing. And so the amount of music
Gotcha.
that I have ahead of me to learn is like just daunting. Um, but it's been incredible to see how technology really kind of made it easier to kind of process and like have access to things like music. And the other thing is like, it can, technology, like for my kids, right? My son's like learning to play drums now, and we got the drum set out. He's learning. He's doing a fantastic job in jazz band
Hmm.
and honor bands and stuff like that. And the cool thing to see is like how technology has accelerated his ability to become a musician, because we didn't have YouTube back then. Like, you wanted to learn how to play
Nope.
music, you had to like go buy albums, you had to like go to the library and find a book on orchestration or jazz harmony or whatever and start reading how to do it. If you
Yep.
were lucky enough to have like, figure out like which catalogs had like a Wynton Marsalis's video or something, you could see good people, especially if you were in a rural area, there wasn't a lot of exposure to it. So with
Hmm.
technology kind of accelerating access to everything and then supporting you as a musician through like your daily practice, and then also providing like performance outlets, it's a whole, it's really been a force multiplier on everything that we do as musicians. So that just continuing to advance the technology, I think, is important to that.
And that is precisely what FairVU is trying to do, is to advance the technology for us to be able to make some connections and to move forward as musicians. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a different episode and what's going
Mhm.
on. So that brings us almost to the end of the interview. And I actually, just in hearing you talk, I've got one more question. I'm going off script here for a second, because you are unique thus far in terms of the interviews that we've done. I exist in the punk rock and roll metal world. Lots of distorted guitars and things like that. And I've dabbled in jazz and funk and all of that stuff. But you are focusing on an area of music which I am deeply passionate about and I enjoy, but I don't get to engage in very often. So I'm
Mhm.
curious about your unique perspective as a classical operatic musician. What does your practice routine look like when you set out to practice something? If you got a bunch of rock guitarists and such who are listening, and maybe some of them don't exactly know what practice is supposed to look like. What does that
Mhm.
mean? How do you approach that?
Yeah, to me, practice is breaking things down into parts so that you can build them back up in your own way. So for example, like with this Iolanta score,
Hmm.
I spent an inordinate amount of time, like maybe 80% of the time, on the language around the Russian, because to me that was brand new, something that I had the hardest time with. So I kind of went big. They could say go ugly early, where you tackle the
Nice.
biggest challenge first, and you really break it down and try to learn the language and the way to pronounce it. Then I go back and I start just speaking the like figuring out the rhythms, and I just start either saying the words in rhythm or even just learning the rhythms without the words and then combining them. And then I
Hmm.
start layering on the notes, so that I'll learn the melody by itself without just like da 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 da, like da 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 da, like learn the melody part of it, and then
Hmm.
start to combine them until I can do it slowly combined, and then speed it up, or do it in full voice. A lot of that work is just mental work, like that you have to do to kind of memorize or learn the parts and get familiar with them, and then you put it into voice, because you're saving the voice for, you don't want to wear it out. So you're doing all of this kind of without really singing it fully out, and then at the end you put it in the voice,
Right.
and you have all the components already together. Of course, this one's open book because it's a concert opera, so I don't have to memorize it. But like, then the next step is just getting it to where you don't have to look anymore, and you can do it
You're
even while distracted.
Even
You
when you
know?
don't have to memorize something, it's always a good idea to memorize it and have, even if
Yeah.
you've got the script, so that it becomes a part of you, Dude, thank you so much for your perspective on that. It's, I have been so looking forward to this conversation, and this is the best. here at the very end of the interview, we always like to ask our guests about something that we here at FairVU call the soundtrack of your life. And you know, throughout this, you've mentioned a couple of people already, Tchaikovsky being one of them, Tito Puente was another. Is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to that was a good influence on you, or someone that you particularly like, or that you would like to work with at some point, or whatever, someone like that? And we're going to link to all of them here down in the video.
Yeah, wow, that's like trying to pick your favorite kid, you know. I don't know if I can do that, but
It could even just be one or two. You don't have to pick your favorites.
Yeah. Well, for sure, like I really enjoy, you know, Metallica was a big influence in the early days, and to me, I hear the sort of epic kind of storytelling of their music in a lot of the other things that I'm engaged in, and so that was a group that I continue to kind of go back to and enjoy and appreciate.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's always been very eclectic, right? Like the first albums that I had were completely random genres, but I try to look for like kind of the sort of like, you know, the connection between them, even if it's you know, not obvious on the front. So that's all I've got for now. I'm sure with more time I might figure that out, but.
No, dude, totally fine. You know, there's a reason why you like what you like, and finding the connections to be able to sort of explain that so that you can find other things is important. So, sweet. Tchaikovsky, Tito Puente, and Metallica. So, James and Lars, if you're watching this, Robert Bousquet says hello.
Yeah.
So, in signing off, if people are interested in finding out more about your work and what you're up to, how can we do that?
You can go to my website, robertbousquet.com, and I'll have links there to a bunch of stuff I'm working on.
That's great, dude. Thank you very much. As always, if you guys would be so kind as to like and subscribe, that really helps us out. We here at FairVU are dedicated to bringing you the best product that we can in terms of these interviews and our video projects and such. And just clicking that button actually does help us out a lot with the algorithm. So please engage in doing so. And you can also go check out our website, fairvu.net. That is fairvu.net. You can learn all about what we are up to. We've got an online store. You can make a purchase and help support us with that. My name is Sasha Moreau with FairVU. That is Robert Bousquet. This has been an interview. Thank you so much.